Hello children, let's quickly revise The Tale of the Melon City, the last poem in your snapshots by Vikram Seth. First let's revise the poem. It is a satire on foolish pride, arrogance and following traditions and law to an extent that becomes funny or ironical. A humorous satirical account of a king who ends up killing himself only because he has a convoluted or an absurd sense of justice. He stretches it too far and there is a thoughtless execution of justice. Now, a foolish king who is not really just placid or either just orders an ark to be built in his kingdom. He visits that ark and he hits the ark and his crown is knocked off. He is very angry and he orders an execution of someone who had built the ark wrongly. Now, there is a blame game which starts like the builders, laborers, masons, everybody blames each other and finally the architect is blamed who then blames the king himself. Now the king is very confused, he cannot obviously hang himself, so he is very confused. So now he orders for a wise man to be brought in and like the king, the soldiers, the ministers is also stupid. They bring a wise man just considering that he is a lazy man and he is the eldest in the kingdom. Now the old man says that it is the ark's fault. So there is no one to be hanged. But the king senses a kind of chaos and restlessness in the crowd and he thinks that leaving aside who is guilty and who is not, someone has to be hanged because the noose has been fitted. Now everyone walks to the noose and finally the only person who actually fits the noose is the king and he is executed. Now the state is without the king, so a new ruler is needed. They decide that the first person who walks inside the gate of the city, as the tradition is, he will be asked who the king would be. Now as fate would have it, the person who walks is an idiot and whatever question you might ask him, he answers only with the answer melon. So when they ask him who will be the next king, he says a melon and they ceremoniously make the melon a king, make a melon the king and now they live peacefully. This is a satirical and humorous, ironical account of how people could be so silly following traditions they don't understand that the theory of laissez-faire, non-interference of state has been stretched so far. When you need a ruler, a government has to participate in the welfare of the people of the state and they cannot just let gone. Now you might find questions like what do you mean by just and placid? Was the king really so? See, being just means you follow justice, you follow the law and you don't have any other leanings. Now being placid means being restful, not angry, never losing their cool. But the king was neither just nor placid, he had a very absurd sense of justice and he was very short-tempered, he got angry at any given point. How did the king lose his life? The king lost his life because when no one else fitted the noose and he fitted the noose, he had to be executed. Now who was crowned the next king? A melon was crowned the next king. Why? Because the first person who walked through the gates of the city after the king was executed was an idiot and he said that a melon should be a king. Now what opinion do you form of the ministers? This is an inferential question. What opinion would be forming of the ministers? They were as stupid as the king, they were as idiotic as him. They also followed traditions without understanding the implications and they were so foolish as to make a melon a king and then leave that to the running of the state. Now similarly you may have long answer questions. What impression do you form of the state where the king was just and placid? See, where the king is just actually and where the ruler is placid, he can lead the state in a very well mannered way, very well fashioned way. But this king was not either just or placid. So there was an unruly mob behavior in the crowd. There was a lot of confusion and chaos. There was restlessness. So the state was not in a very good hand actually. Then suggest a few instances of which highlight humor and irony in the story. You can highlight the blame game, how the king, first of all, how the king was not at all placid, he got very angry, then there was a blame game, that is all very humorous, and then how a melon of all the things in the world was placed as the king. Then you can talk about irony, how the king himself didn't know how to find answers to his questions, how he could not understand how how people were misleading him and excusing themselves turn by turn, and how the excuse landed on him. It was really ironical how the way an ark was considered to be the main culprit, and so on and so forth.